Hey, this is Bruce, and I love cameras. I'm really getting into cameras and especially into content creation and using these cameras for making YouTube videos. And I get asked many times about the cameras that I use, which ones do I recommend, and I just thought I would kind of take a few minutes and talk about this camera in particular. This is a Sony AX53. I've had it, I don't know, over a year now. And this is a sub $900 4K consumer camcorder. And it's got a lot of positives to it if you're a YouTuber. Well, first off, let's talk about the price, which is under $900. And I have my Amazon affiliate link to this camera down below this video. But to shoot 4K video, and beautiful 4K video, if I may add, and do it at such a low price point, without any extra lenses or anything. I mean, when you get this camera, you get essentially everything you need to start creating video. Now, the next thing on this camera is its BOS image stabilization system, or Balanced Optical Steadyshot. This is a 5-axis stabilizer to help keep everything nice and smooth when you're walking around and not getting that shaky footage. This is a tremendous thing that this camera has, this camcorder has, that a lot of others don't. It is fantastic. Another excellent selling point of this camera is the autofocus. I got to tell you, it is nothing short of amazing. Now, a lot of people rave about the Canon and their dual pixel autofocus. Well, the face detection on this is, in my opinion, equally as good. So if you're a one-man band and you don't have anybody else helping you, it's important that when you do your shoot, that you are in focus, and this does a marvelous job of that. I'd also like to point out that the recording time, unlike many DSLRs, which are limited to under 30 minutes, is only limited by the storage space of your SD card, and that is really handy, especially if you're going to be recording a lot of lengthy events you're taking to concerts or seminars or whatever. That's nice to have that extra long recording time without having to stop and start, stop and start. Another great feature of this camera is it has a built-in microphone jack that you can hook up to and get external audio. It also has its own microphone we'll talk about in just a moment. It has that, and it also has a headphone jack, so you can monitor the audio if you wish. That's kind of a pro-level feature, and it's built into this camera. I'd like to mention that this is a fairly lightweight camera, so very easy and very ergonomic. That's one of the nice things about a camcorder. It's designed for handheld video. Another great benefit of this camera is the fact that these batteries that come with it have great life on them. You can record for hours without having to change batteries, and you can find very inexpensive batteries on eBay or Amazon instead of the Sony brand. And you can get even larger capacity ones that will even give you longer recording time. Another great feature of this camera and of a camcorder is the optical zoom. On this particular camera, it's up to 20 times optical zoom, and then they have what they call clear zoom, which is up to 30 times, and digital zoom, I don't know what it is, like 200, something crazy like that, but up to 20 times optical zoom. That means you just have this one lens. See, that's the thing about DSLRs, that you just have only one lens to contend with. So that makes it very nice when you're out traveling. You don't have a bag full of lenses, because this lens will give you some fantastic focal range on here. Let's talk about apertures for just a second. As a YouTuber, the aperture of a lens basically means how much light that lens can let through, and how wide, or how fast, I should say, how fast the lens is. And this goes down to f.20, which means it actually doesn't do bad in low light. Matter of fact, it actually has a nice shot mode, because it's that green effect. You really wouldn't use that, but it actually does quite well in low light. Now, let's talk about the built-in microphone. It's not bad, it's not great. I certainly would prefer an external microphone, but it will do in a pinch. And it is capable of recording in Dolby surround sound, not in the 4K mode, but in the AVC HD mode. You can get the Dolby surround sound. It also has a built-in wind filter electronic that you can use in the menus. Now let's talk about some of the cons of this camera. First off, keep this in mind. This camera was designed to be an automatic camera. I mean, to run in auto mode. That's what it's designed to do. However, you can take manual control of the exposure by either manually controlling the aperture or the shutter speed or the ISO, or they call it gain. However, here's the kicker. You can only control one of those at a time. Everything else will go back to auto mode, including the white balance. So if you set the white balance manually, everything else will be in manual mode. Now you do have compensation, like white balance compensation. You do have a little bit of gain compensation, etc. But pretty much this camera is intended to be an automatic camera. And so if you are looking to grow in your cinematography, this may not be the camera for you. This is designed for easy use to quickly get up and running, start shooting video. And I think for a lot of folks, this is all you're really going to need. Okay, another problem if you're a YouTuber that's going to use this for vlogging in particular, or if you're going to have the camera sitting fairly close to you, is that the lens really isn't that wide. At 26.8 millimeters, as wide as part, you really got to hold this camera way far away from you in order to get everything kind of in the background. And that could be kind of a downshot. I have been looking for a wide angle adapter for this and have not been successful in finding anything really out there that would be any good, unfortunately. So, but if you happen to see something out there, let me know in the comments down below. So that is one of the downshots. Now, another problem with this camera, although Sony has mostly addressed this issue, is this lens, this balanced optical steady shot. When you put it on a tripod and you do a fast pan, that lens will continue to move, and that can cause some problems. Now, Sony has said they addressed this in a firmware update. I did a quick test. It looks like it mostly took care of the issue, but depending on how fast that you pan with it, this is really not a showstopper for most of us, but it could be, and it is a potential downside of the camera. I don't really use it in that particular scenario, but nonetheless, that lens could be moving around if you pan really, really fast. Now, this may sound like I'm nitpicking a little bit, and I'm not trying to, but basically this little door here that covers the hot shoe on here is very, very flimsy. It feels like it's ready to break off in a moment's notice. I'm actually going to go ahead and try just to remove it, as I keep an external microphone on here at all times, but it is actually very, very flimsy, very, very delicate. Another thing I want to address is the menu system. Actually, I find it a little bit, I found it kind of confusing when I first got started with the camera. Now, like anything else, the more you practice with it, the better you're going to get. Sony needs to really update their menus on these and make them a little bit easier to find, and organize them a little bit more logically. A lot of people complain about the menu system on these Sony Handycams, but once you learn it and get it down, it's not so bad. Now, this also might sound like nitpicking, but as you grow as a YouTuber, as a content creator, you may want more control over the final look of your video. And a lot of that depends on what's called picture profiles. Without going into a lot of detail, essentially a picture profile gives your camera, your image, a certain look. Some of them can be very flat with a lot of dynamic range. Others can be quite colorful and contrasty. And you have different options, and I'm speaking, of course, from the Canon world. But with the Sony, you only get one profile, which is the Cinematone. Other than that, what you see is what you get. So if you want to color grade your videos, you really want to get into that, take your editing to the next level, pretty much you're stuck with what comes out of this camera. And it's been my experience using this camera to take photographs, and of course that's important as a YouTuber. It's not terrible, but they don't take the best photographs. So I would still recommend that if you have this camera, at least take your photographs maybe with your phone or with a point and shoot, because I just don't think it does that great of a job with photographs, but it will work in a pinch. So this is the Sony AX53. Again, I'll have the link down below. I think for most YouTubers, when you're looking for a run and gun kind of camera, if you're going to be doing talking head kind of videos, as long as you set it back a little bit, you really don't want to mess around with a lot of color grading or something super difficult to learn. And you don't want to spend a lot of money on lenses and so forth, and you want great battery life, long record times. and you want to get in that 4K world to boot, this is going to be a hard camera to beat, especially with that balanced optical steady shot. So I hope that answers some questions some of you may have about the Sony AX53. Thanks for watching.